Good evening. Good evening, good evening. I hope you all can hear the music that I'm playing. I'm not sure if you can. So if you could just give me a comment, thumbs up or thumbs down,
Black boy,
I would appreciate it.
Standing for the ghetto, you're so hardcore. Fist held tight, won't let go. Your legs don't seem to run. I see you fighting for the sunlight, 'cause it's yours.
This is the African World Study
When
Group.
your spirit starts to dream and
Coming
you open
live
up your
and
wings, you soar.
From the States United. Yes. Happy Saturday, everyone. Happy Saturday.
Black girl,
It is an African
beauty
thing.
finest in your bloodline, the world. Once the gifts you're born
Welcome,
with,
welcome. The doors are open.
Are locked inside your
Come on in
precious
and have a seat
Stay
in a circle.
See, no matter where you start, you somehow make it to the top, 'cause you're gold. See, black is so beautiful. Kissed by the sun as we dance to the drum, so beautiful.
Yes, come on in, grab a seat, grab a seat. Please say hi in the comments. Say hi, let us know who you are and where you're viewing from. Welcome to the African World Study Group. Welcome, welcome. As we listen to Sister Navasha and Brother James of Fertile Ground soothe us with Black Is. Yes. Black is beautiful. Ashe, 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 oh, ashe, oh. Go ahead and light this candle.
Black man,
which represents wisdom.
Spirit of the strong,
Light is wisdom.
Father Creole, sing your song. The strength within your hands build pyramids like you. They stand. Lead on. The protector of the womb, your light illuminates the moon into dawn.
Trinkets and gadgets.
Ebony queen, Nubian goddess, woman phenomenally.
Yes, 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 yes. Welcome, welcome. Come on in and have a seat. This is the African World Study Group.
The planets only sounding even when they knock you down. Still you rise.
All right, all right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know, please. Let me know if you can hear me. right, all right. Beautiful, beautiful. Black is beautiful. All right, all right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I have a microphone that's supposed to have a light on it, but it doesn't. So, Miss Callie, can you hear me again, please? Let me know. Let me know. Thank you all. We're going to start with a drum call. Just a minute. Love the song. Positive affirmations. Black is beautiful.
So beautiful. We are so beautiful.
Can you hear that?
You are.
Can you hear the drum?
You are so beautiful. We are
so beautiful. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
All right, all right, all right. I guess I'm going to have to violate the first rule of Fight Club. See if I can hear myself by logging in. All right. I can hear myself. Good, 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 good. All right, all right, all right. Give thanks, fertile ground. It is an African thing. Culture. So I will ask the ancestors permission to speak, and they have granted me such. So we pour libation, pour tambico to the universal Mother, Father, God, who is and shall forever be. Amen. Ashe. Who is Ra? Ashe. Who is Jah? Rastafari. Ashe. Who is Yahweh? Ashe. Who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ashe. Who is Ogun? Ashe. Oshun? Ashe. We pour to the spirit of Oludumare. Ashe. To all the Abasun. Ashe. To all the ancestors. Ashe. We pour to all the great warriors, men and women, the queens and kings of old. Ashe. We pour to our ancestors. So call the names of your ancestors. Let's remember them now. Ashe. 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 Call the names. Let's remember them. Ashe. Let's keep them alive. Ashe. 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 We pour to our great scholars. Ashe. Ashe. Our leaders, our great thinkers. Ashe. We pour to El Haj Shabazz. Ashe. Dr. King. Ashe. Noble Drew Ali. Ashe. Elijah Muhammad. Ashe. We pour to our great educators. Ashe. And we pour, as we began, so shall we end, by pouring to the universal spirit, Mother, Father, God, who is and shall forever be. Ashe. 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 All right. Now that we done broke it off something proper like, get the candle back to burning. And let's get it on. Let's bring it, come. Bring it, come, as the Rastaman say. What? Yes. Yes. Good evening. Good evening. Greetings to you from Jah to our ragamuffin. Ooh-wee. Yes. All right. All right. What's going on, family? What's good? Happy Saturday. Happy, what's today? 27th of November. That's what's up. So I welcome you all to the African World Study Group. I am Baba Kamal, your most gracious host for the evening, as we discuss another topic in the Black world. Brother Kevin Samuels, as we work to repair the relationships between Black men and women. We're going to have these conversations. And so, if you don't know, again, I'm Baba Kamal. I am the facilitator of the African World Study Group. The African World Study Group was founded in 1994. 1994. I took a little hiatus, and now I am back with a digital format of the African World Study Group. We used to meet in person and read books. We would do museum study tours, trips, bring lecturers into town. But now we're going global, yo. We going on the interwebs. So now we have this digital format. And I want to thank you all for tuning in this evening as we try to reach more of our community to have these discussions about things that are important to the Black community globally, not just here in America, but globally. We're in an international community now. The last 20, 25 years, things have exploded to where now, I have friends all over the globe, like on different continents and different languages. It's crazy. Like, I've met people in Brazil and they speak Portuguese, and I can communicate with them in Portuguese by using Google Voice, or not Voice, what's it called? Google Translate. So we're in a global community now, and our issues are global. The world is getting smaller. You have billionaires going to space, but yet we still have homeless people, right? We have all manner of people able to get married in this world, but some of us still struggle to find dignity in our own communities, to be recognized as human beings by certain members of our nation. I'm not going to say community, because some of those folks don't exactly consider themselves to be a member of our community. But so we have issues, folks. We have issues, and we must address them as a community. So I have a presentation I'm going to give, and then I'm going to open the floor up. If you want to join me live and be a part of the conversation, I welcome you to join me. And also, please comment on the little thing, whatever platform you're watching on. Please comment if you have something you want to add, and we'll do it that way. Let's see. Somebody just dinged me, so I don't know exactly how this works, but I'm going to try to pay attention to the comments and to the screen. So so today we're going to talk about Kevin Samuels and his rise to meteoric fame, so to speak, and what his content means to Black America. So so again, this is the African World Study Group. My goal is to resume classes proper, to resume study of books proper. But initially, as we enter into the new year, I wanted to have conversations about something that's really critical, which are male man and woman relationships, black man and black woman relationships. Um, the foundation of any nation, right, is the community. And of course, the foundation, the cornerstone of community is family. So if we do not have strong, vibrant, active families, we will not have the corresponding community. And if we are not united, then we are often taken advantage of by other communities. And so we as black folks, as Africans, as African Americans, as melanated people across the globe, um, need to understand that it is in our best interest to work together. So we want to have these conversations about um, getting our families back together. And we got some problems, y'all. we have some some issues, as the old folks would say. Not issues that are unsurmountable. We have some schisms, we have some difference of opinions, and we have to work on those. And so, one thing Kevin Samuels has done is to start a conversation. And it's kind of hard to actually find, and I'm not lying, a sister that would actually join me in this conversation, because most women say, "Oh, I can't stand him." I'll listen to some of what he say, but I can't stomach it, right? And let's start off by saying Kevin Samuels was absolutely 100% an asshole. No doubt about that. His in the way he presents himself to some, he could be assumed to be a very much an asshole. However, that does not negate what he says and the importance of it. And the rebuking of what he says by a good portion of our sisters, I think, tell something. But we'll get on to that in a little bit. So I'll set the ground rules. This is the African Moral Study Group. Please comment if you can, if you'd like. And I'm going to present something. I have a presentation. And after the presentation, we'll open it up if you would like to actually join and be on camera with me and have a discussion, a friendly discussion about Brother Samuels and what he says, or what he espouses, or actually maybe even about what I present here this evening. So why the title? Why the title? Why am I saying, let's see, how do I get this? Hide. Right? How do I hide this junk? Hide. Let's go down and get my little thing here. Slide up. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Half the time in working in this stuff, we want to present information, but we also want it to look good. So y'all, I've been trying to work on some stuff on these different apps and such. And so right now I'm just doing it on Microsoft because my other stuff wasn't working too friendly here. So, and see, it's still not working too friendly. Come on, Microsoft. All right, here we go. All right. So I call the presentation there you go. Kevin Samuels for Dummies. For those of you who are of a certain age, you remember the books for Dummies. It was a whole series of books. If you wanted to learn something about computers, if you wanted to learn something about carpentry, if you wanted to learn something about anything, you could go to the Barnes and Nobles or the B. Dalton bookstore or whatever bookstore was in your local mall. There used to be these things called malls, right? And you could go and actually buy a book, and it was called Dummies. Or they had another one out there called Idiots. Idiots for whatever subject. So I titled this video Kevin Samuels for Dummies, not as a derogatory thing, but that's just the term that the books used to go by, for dummies. And so I think a lot of people have not listened to a lot of his content and often comment on little clips and so forth that the media puts out there. And of course, the media is going to put out things to get clicks, clickbait. So they're going to put out the most salacious things. So I'm calling this like the user manual for for Kevin Samuels content, because it can be a dangerous thing to have a little bit of information or to have a little bit of what you think he's about. And again, I'm not an apologist for him. The brother is more than able to fend for himself. However, I do think in order to have a clear and concise and informed conversation about his content, we actually got to know how to use it. It needs an instruction manual that oftentimes you can't get. And I must admit, I've watched a lot of his content over the last year and a half, ever since he did that one video that we're going to talk about. And I've listened to a lot of a full video, which is crazy hard sometimes because his videos can be 2 hours long. And I'm like, yo, bruh, come on, man, make this concise. But sometimes I think as what's my elders, my baba's name? I can't remember his name now. But he would say often black ideas need a long format. We just can't put everything in a snippet. We need long format conversations about some things. And I think some of his content deserves a long format, and some of it is just hammering the same thing. And and this is business. All right. So let's start. Kevin Samuels for Dummies, and I'm not calling anybody a dummy. This is just how we're going to get down with this thing right here tonight. All right. So Kevin Samuels for Dummies, slide it down. So why the need for this conversation? The Dummies series. Again, I talked about how these books were back in the day a group of books that we just used. They were just instruction manuals for different things. And so there we go. Technology, yo. The polarization, is it the anchor on? Maybe I'll take it off. Anyway, I don't know. The polarization of black men and women. Why is Kevin Samuels so divisive? Why is his information so divisive? I mean, pretty much because the stuff he says, I think strikes people the wrong way, both men and women, not just the sisters, but I think a lot of people take his content and it's like venom to some degree. And there's some men who feel like they have not had a voice, or that their voice hasn't been heard in popular conversations about relationships for so long. Since the 80s and the 90s, we've had a lot of folks talking about what the black man should be doing in terms of being a good father, in terms of being represented in the community, and becoming more than just drug dealers and athletes, so to speak. And so black men have been held to task, and I think some people feel that black women have not been held to task for some of their things that may not be looked at as being favorable for our community. And of course, it's a hot topic because it's controversial. I think oftentimes, as we spoke about last night in the Cultivated African conversation, how if it bleeds, it leads, right? We will see every, when you want to watch the news, if you want to find out what the weather is going to be like tomorrow, you're not going to tune in for the first 10, 15 minutes of the news broadcast, because that first 5 to 7 minutes is going to be fire burn Babylon, Babylon, your kingdom is falling, judgment. It's going to be murder, shoot 'em, kill, murder, shoot 'em, kill, bang, bang. The black man did so much, right? So we know the first 5 to 7 minutes is going to be terrible news to watch, right? You could have Jesus could have came down from the sky, fed 1,000 people, went back up, and it would not make the headlines if there was a drug deal gone bad that led to a high-speed chase. The Lord could have came back and went back up, and nobody would know, because if it bleeds, it leads, right? So we understand that. So this is a hot topic, and people are talking about it. So that's why we're gonna talk about it tonight, because I think it's been taken out of context to some degree. So of course it's polarizing. It's a hot topic, and I want to talk about the way we need to use this opportunity, and we should take every opportunity to take something that may have been designed for the bad, and that's what I'm saying. I think because his conversations are very controversial, his topics the things he said is so controversial that it's, his content was everywhere. People have been talking about him for the last year for the most part. And so I think we could take this opportunity to use something that was intended to be negative, right? And use it to actually develop ourselves and develop a dialogue and to make some improvements on it, not just beat the same drum. So we want to continue to cultivate the African, using every opportunity. As Dr. John Henrik Clarke says, everything that touches your life, use it as an instrument for your liberation or throw it into the ash can of history. So that is what we are going to do. We're going to take every opportunity to work in every avenue, in every vein, to get as much freedom in as little time as possible. We're going to work to save as many Black lives, as many Black relationships, as many Black babies as we can in the shortest span of time. Can the church say amen? Yes. Let me get can I get an amen corner? Somebody down there type amen up in the jump. All right, I'm being invaded by a crumb snatcher here, so you may have a little bit of toddler noise. All right, I am a Baba, hence the Baba Kamal, and my parental duties do not end when I go on Facebook Live. So anyway, so we want to take opportunities to make things better for you and me. Wasn't that a song, We Are the World? Anyway, I digress. Now this thing is not working like I wanted it to work, so maybe I just shouldn't use it. See, it's not working like I wanted to. Yeah, this thing sucks. I thought I turned off the where is it? And behind, move with text, fixed position. Yeah, so I should be right. I don't know. Anyway, y'all, just put that up there and do what I gotta do. Okay, come on now, go. Man, if my screen froze, I think it did. No, it didn't. Okay, how about this? Oh, we just delete that. Delete. There we go. Trying to be fancy. Okay, so where are we? We are about here. Clarity of his message, pros and cons. So yes, we're going to discuss the pros and cons. Who is Kevin Samuels? Kevin Samuels is a 53-year-old man, born in Oklahoma, I believe, in the Midwest. Attended university, but from what I've learned, he did not graduate. He joined Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, which is the best organization for him. You know, everybody can't be an Omega. So anyway, he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, worked in sales and a bunch of other things. He had cancer. He's had a bunch of marriages, and yeah, he started doing content, I don't know, a long time ago, 5-6 years ago, that was mostly focused on fashion and men and their image. He's an image consultant. I don't know if he holds any type of training or certifications in that field, but he has considers himself an image consultant, which he began his internet life consult. And this is important. He began his internet, content trying to help men improve their images to get the outcomes they want, right? Then the conversation about 1.5 2 years ago switched also to women and helping women get their desired outcomes, right? And this leads us to what blew everybody's mind a couple of years, well, last year, when he was looked at. He was, of course, captured telling this lady, "You're average at best, and you're going to die alone. Go get a dog." And so everyone was jumping on, man, how is he going to tell this woman that she's going to die alone, that she can't have what she wants, that he was so rude and he's so this and he's so that. And unless you watch the entire video, it's kind of an unfair portrayal of the entire conversation. So what does Kevin Samuel start off doing? And this is very important for you to understand how his show works. So, a person will call in and say, I'm this, I'm that, and I want a man, I want a husband. And this is where the trick bag starts. I'm gonna talk about a little bit later. So, with this one woman, she's like, well, I want this kind of a man. And he was like, well, here's important. The kind of man that you said that you want typically wants this kind of woman. Okay. So, as an image consultant, what he said is, as through his experience, right? The high value or the men that she want, right? Typically want a woman that is a certain way. And she does not fit that typical scenario. Not saying that, she could not meet someone and fall in love or whatever. But the question is framed. I'm an image consultant. My research or my experience teaches me such that the men that you want women that fit this type of category, right? And this is where the whole thing comes into play, where everybody loses their shit about what he says, right? He's speaking about a certain specific type of subset of men, right? Quote unquote high value, high earners, tall, successful, the whole gambit of Dexter St. Jock, as Eddie Murphy would put it. Although Dexter St. Jock was selling bananas on the beach, so maybe not, maybe not Dexter St. Jock, maybe Dexter St. Croix, his cousin who is the prime minister, whatever. So there's a certain subset of men that he's talking about, right? And he's simply saying that my experience tells me that this type of man does not want a woman that is your type personality, A type personality, boss, B, whatever, how she calls herself, even though the woman appeared to be very, very peaceful, his interpretation of her is that she was kind of, aggressive. He says that a woman or a man rather, that is of this caliber is usually going to want a woman that is, submissive and willing to get on that man's program without discussion, right? And I think typically he's telling the truth about that subset of men, which is a very small group of men. And so what she tried to throw out is her success as being an entrepreneur, as being I think she owned a dog grooming or some type of dog walking, I think it was dog grooming company. And she began to equate her financial success along with the type of man success. And what Kevin Samuels is saying is that group that she wants typically does not care what money a woman brings to the table because they're successful. They have their own money. It's more important for them, that small particular subset of men, it's important for them to have that woman get on their program in the story. And so that's to recap that conversation. And so I think his response to her, right, was right and exact based on what his experience was. And, sort of based on what I believe my experience is too with that particular subset of men. That's not everybody. That's a very small group of men that he's talking about or talking to. So, of course, in this conversation, I'm giving a warning. I'm speaking in generalizations, right? Anything is possible under the sun. So for the rest of this, I'm going to be talking about generalizations. So this is not everybody and for all people, but we're speaking in generalizations right here. So, all right. So the Kevin Samuels talking points. What most women want. Most women call his show and they say, I want a man that is like this, blah, blah, blah. They are, again, over 6 feet, over 6 figures, certain athletic build, go to church, has no kids. Like the women call and they want this certain, again, this real specific group of men. And Kevin Samuels calls these types of men high value. Well, as his definition of a high value man, someone who has earned over $100,000 for, I believe it's 3 to 5 years, and has a network and finds himself to be valuable to other men. um, has options. And most women that call his show want that same type of man. They want the top 10 earners, uh, tall. They want the guy to be somewhat traditional in terms of his values towards the woman. They want the guy to open the door and to pull out the chair and to be chivalrous in the whole nine, right? And that's good. That's what I'm a man. I believe in manhood. That's what I do for those that I love, right? Then here comes the part that usually throws people out of whack. He says, if you want that type of man, top 10 earner, over 6 feet tall, traditional, high moral values, so that's a very small group of men. You're talking about 5-6% of all black men. And so what he's saying to these women are, do you qualify for that type of man? And of course, once he says that, Lord the mercy, people go crazy. They say, what do you mean, do I qualify? Of course I'm qualified. I'm a boss B. I'm this, and this. And if we look at it statistically, right, that type of man is going to have an enormous amount of options. And it, as unfair as it may be, can choose any assortment of women that he wants, black, white, otherwise. And again, that the women that call typically don't fit the criteria that he feels that man will be looking for. Again, speaking in generalizations, a man can fall in love with anybody. But if we're talking about, let's say we take the top 10 type percent of white men, right? You had Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy, who was taken as one of the most beautiful women of the 1960s. Elegant, slim, well poised, good demeanor. When her husband was murdered, John F. Kennedy was murdered by the government, anyway. Who did she go out and marry? Did she go marry another international jet-setting playboy young guy? Nope. She went out and she married Aristotle Onassis, right? This old dude, I believe he was Greek, married him. Why would a young, beautiful woman marry this old man? Well, that's because she wanted a top quality man. And the quantity of top men that perhaps were in her age range at the time, 30, late 30s, early 40s, were not available. So she had to go up. And so she married, I think, a 60-year-old guy. And she's one of the most beautiful women in the world at the time. So what Kevin Samuels is talking about is not unusual. Women who are models and beautiful, beautiful women go for those top tier men. And the average woman, right, may not qualify for that type of man. And he's using that type of language because he knows, or men know, that when you're a man and you've got it decently together, over a certain age, you can have the pick of the litter. It's not fair. It's not whatever, but it is what it is. That's the truth about that. You will typically find older, successful men with young, beautiful women. And of course, you have your outliers of people that grew up together or people that came up together. But unfortunately, men, as superficial as we are, our first thing in dealing with a woman is to look at her beauty. And that's why Kevin Samuels often says, well, he often says, how do you rate yourself? From 1 to 10, you can't use 7, right? Which is another trick bag he uses. And most women say 6 or 8 or 9. And then he goes on this rant about you're not Beyonce, you're not Kelly Rowland, or whoever it is, I don't know. And that's when this debate comes in. And it is sort of delusional, or I guess a woman can really say she feels that she's the most beautiful thing in the world. But that may not be the reality. And I think most men understand where they are. So in terms of do they qualify for this men, it just simply means that the type of men that these women are looking for typically are not looking for the average woman. They're looking for a woman with extreme beauty and a different type of personality than your average person who has to get up and go to work in the morning. Yeah. So he often talks about something called a SMV, a sexual marketplace value, right? And again, men being as shallow as we are, we like eye candy, and that is just what it is. There's some of us that are more mature, and there are other things that we may gravitate towards later. But initially, it is that beauty. It may be the face, it may be the body for some. But for men, we aren't checking for your degrees in terms of our attraction. Generally, we're not checking for, these other things that aren't really physical initially, right? And so he says your sexual marketplace value, right, is pretty much based on your looks. And that's his generalization, which has some truth to it. I think men will gravitate to women that they're attracted to, whatever that may be. But I think also what he says, remember the guys he's talking about this top 10% of high earners. Again, in every scenario, he gets to this top 10% of guys and what they're looking for. And, that type of guy is really looking for, here comes the fireball, the wrecking ball. He's looking for traditional women. That guy, that top 10 high value man, is looking for someone that is traditional, someone that cooks and takes care of the man, that values the the feminine attribute, that's fit, feminine, cooperative, and submissive. That's what he says that this top 10 man typically wants. And I can't really dispute that. Again, you can find outliers on that. There's some men that value the power couple. There's some men that value having a muse, right? Maybe someone that's not, someone that's artsy or whatever. But for that business type, that upper level management type, I deal with these guys all the time. And when Kevin Samuels talks about how they want a woman that's a certain way when they go to the business meeting, and this, he has got it on point. I have been in meetings with executives, and most of the these are Caucasians. Most of these women look exactly the freaking same. They talk about exactly the same thing. Like, it's crazy. And I might come in with some little wild chick or whatever, and I'll be like, that's interesting, but this is my type. This is how I get down, dudes. But anyway, so that type of high earning man is looking for someone that's traditional, fit, feminine, cooperative, and submissive. And then, of course, they get to the topic of what do you bring to the table, talking to women. And, a lot of women in these structured conversations with Kevin Samuels often say, I'm a woman. I bring me to the table. And so once he says, okay, we got to take your degree, your education, we have to take your income off the table. What else do you bring to the table? Okay, well, I bring booty to the table, right? And then he says, well, every woman brings booty to the table. That's nothing special. And that's very true. I think above a certain age, we're going to realize that sex is only going to carry a relationship for so far. And that a man that's looking for a wife wants more, especially for this particular subset of men, high earners, corporate types, right? This is what these women say they want. And this is what he's telling them that this type of man wants. And, a woman has to bring something else to the table. And he talks about, marriageable skills, how to run a household, how to clean, have this conversation about recipe books. Like, can you cook? Do you have skills in how to deal with conflict with your man? Like, have you actually built up your relationship skills, which I think is a very valuable thing. Oftentimes, the women in his conversations will say, well, I had a relationship, it's over, I'm taking time off for me. It'll be years in between relationships, And he's like, well, when do you ever develop the skills to learn how to actually work with a man? Because believe it or not, men and women are different, right? And I think those are some valuable points that Kevin Samuel brings up in terms of what men want, how oftentimes, when I grew up, they would say, learn to listen to what a woman says, find out what a woman likes. And then you do that. You develop yourself in a way that you become attracted to women. I think men know that there's certain things we have to do to become attractive. Smell good, take a bath, brush your teeth, smile, be funny, right? But lately, it seems like there's a movement for people to say, just be who you are. Don't try to appeal to no man. Don't try to do whatever. Don't be thirsty, which is foolish. But anyway, let's get on to it. So now let's talk about what I think are what is the BS in Kevin Samuel's positions, right? One is that a woman's education and earnings is of no value to a man. That is total bullcrap. Total bullcrap. The average man, the average working class person in this world wants a partner that can contribute to the household income. Definitely guaranteed. So when he goes on this whole rant about men don't want a woman that can contribute, people get upset because they're thinking he's talking about the average man. Well, no, he's talking about this high earner dude. And yes, that guy that's making $200,000, $300,000 a year, he might not care about it. But to the brother that's making 50, 60 grand a year, yeah, we care about it. If our woman makes good money, that is a valuable thing. So I think that's an unfair proposition in his argument that men don't value a woman's education or a woman to earn. That's bullcrap. The average man does want his woman to have some money, some resource, some education. That's good, right? So I think that's a disingenuous position that he says there. That's some bullcrap. Men do want their women to be educated and have some money. Now, the point is, does it make the woman more valuable than the man, right? Or woman, does that make you more valuable than just a regular good woman? So if I'm a PhD, right? I actually know that woman. That woman he used in that soundbite, I know. We used to talk. But anyway, I'm a PhD, right? That doesn't make you better than the average woman who may just be working, making $20 an hour doing office work or whatever. In terms of being a marriage candidate for being a woman who we would marry, right? To the average dude. Yeah, your income is important, but don't throw that in a man's face like, oh yeah, that's going to make me desire you more. Not really, because oftentimes that comes with a lot of debt and a lot of ego. Trust me, I have a lot of friends who are very highly educated and are very, very single. And to my friends, if you're listening, I'm not talking about you. Okay. All right. And then there's this other thing that I think is total BS about Kevin Samuels, the cost to raise a family. He'll ask a woman, well, what do you want? Oh, I want 3 kids. Okay, 3 kids. It's going to cost $800,000 a year to raise 3 kids. Kevin, where in the world are you living, dude? Where does it cost $800,000 to 3? These astronomical numbers that he uses to say, well, if you want 3 kids, you're going to have to marry a man that earns $600,000 because you don't want to contribute anything substantial to the. No, it's a trick bag. It's a trick question. No, that's not it at all. He states all the time that the average income, in the country is what I think $40,000 for women, maybe $50,000 for men. So that means if you have a median income of $90,000, that's what most people are earning. Clearly, you can live off a lot less than $300,000 a year to raise 3 kids. Just using his own logic, but somehow he twists the whole game up, and people don't bring that point up. Like, yo, you just said the average man earns this, the average woman earns that. So clearly, there are 320 or 340 million Americans that's making it happen with less than $100,000 a year, Kevin. So that's BS. right? So anyway, um, so that's one. The cost to raise a family. He uses these ridiculous prices. I live in the most expensive state in the country, and I just read the other day that to be median income in Maryland was to have a household income of, I believe it was $90,000 a year, and that's in Maryland. Like there are other parts of the country where it's only like 50 or 60. But anyway, um, and this preposition that he says that most men want women to stay home. No, I don't think that's true. I think most women don't even want to stay home. Now, there's a value to that I think we need to change in our community in terms of a parent being home to take care of children. But right now, as of right now, I don't think most men want their wives to stay at home. I know very few men um, that want their women to stay home. I have one friend, and he is my hero, guy that works in construction with me, and he was able to have a business and for his wife to stay home and raise their three beautiful girls. Um, and now the last daughter is about to go off to college. And I'm so proud of him. And they didn't live a modest life at all. I mean, I often wonder, like, man, I'm so proud of you to be able to do that. He's my hero. He's younger than me, but he's my hero. And Dr, if you're listening, I love you, brother. You're my hero. Anyway, yeah, and then there's the partnership. Kevin Samuel often says that men don't want, or he frames the question the way that he says men don't want partnerships. We want to be the HMIC. And I'm not going to say the N word, right? Because we don't use that anymore. The head man in charge. We're going to be HMIC. But I think a good portion of men actually do want women to be their partners. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's certain men like myself who I've had that type of marriage previously. When I was younger, partnerships work. I've had partnerships in business. Partnerships work. They have to be laid out, and you have to have a certain type of person to do it. Um, um, that is what it is. It works. It can work. I am a more traditional man than I was in my younger days. So, partnership in terms of how we approach things, in terms of conversation and discussions. But ultimately, I think there's some men, and myself included, who want to have the final say. Was talking to a friend a couple weeks ago, and they had gotten into some mechanical trouble, some car trouble, and I said, well, if you were my woman, that wouldn't have happened, because you wouldn't have been out there by yourself, run up and down the road at a certain time of night. And so that statement, right off the back, may sound really arrogant. 90, stay upstairs. Sorry about that. You have to wait. Anyway, that may sound real arrogant. My woman, not gonna be out there, but yeah, think about that. If a man's role is to profess, provide, and protect, right? If my job is to protect you, you have given me that role. We've stood before God in the community, and I've sworn to protect you. And you want to be out running the streets, after midnight, and then when something happens, I have to come save you. If you want a person to be responsible, then you have to give them. It's only fair you give them the ability to have some say into terms of what the safety boundaries are. You want to leave the doors open at night and the windows open? No. If I'm responsible for safety, I'm gonna make sure this stuff is locked down. But the way I explain that is, you wouldn't have been out there by yourself. I would have just went with you. Like you wouldn't have been by yourself. I would have gone with you to make sure everything was safe and secure, right? If that's what you want in terms of a man. Anyway, enough about me. So partnerships do work. Now, here's one that is some BS, but he has a point to some degree. The role of the stepfather and how that is a thankless role. For me, it's under BS because I think most men will date a woman who has children. We understand the need to, take on the responsibility of a man, perhaps it may not be in the life of their children, or to just be a good husband to our wives, and be a stepdad. And that role could vary, but it can be a pain in the butt to some degree, especially when it comes to discipline of the children. Um, I believe that if you choose a person, a man or woman, to be your wife or husband, you need to extend to them the same privileges that you have in terms of raising and rearing children. If you do not trust them, if you do not want them to have the same parental rights and responsibilities, do not get married. If you have not vetted a man well enough to trust him, to know that when it's time to discipline, be that discipline a timeout, a spanking, or taking of a privilege, then don't marry that person. So, some of what he says about being a stepfather is true. However, I think most men don't mind being a stepfather. All right. Now here is more about how he puts up the conversation about you know being a reasonable debate or a good debate. Kevin Samuels is very unfair when he debates folks, right? So look at how he structures the debate. He defines what the debate is, what the topic is, but then he's the moderator. So oftentimes when he has a woman on the line, um, and he'll ask them a question, then he'll talk over them, he'll put them on mute. Now, true, there are a lot of times where the women actually aren't listening and do talk over him, or will be very emotional about their response and not answer a direct question. He often does the same thing himself. He will not answer a direct question. He'll control things by muting them or playing some stupid music. And you have to remember, this is for entertainment. His channel is on YouTube and Instagram. It is entertainment. Um, if you want him to be a professional person, if you want him to help you seriously, then you would book a session like this right here. Even though I'm community building, this is for entertainment. I actually have gotten paid. I don't do anything anymore. I've gotten paid to teach African history. I've been doing African history, African culture, presentation and classes for I don't know 26 years, and I get paid. I'm a professional at this. Right now, this is for entertainment. If you want something more serious, then you can hit me up, and we can get into some things, in a real type of way. But his platform is for entertainment, right? And so it is what it is there. And then he puts people in a trick bag. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So if a woman says, "Well, I want a man that's tall. I don't care what he makes," then he'll say, "Well, how many children do you want?" She'll say, "I want 3 children." "Oh no, he's got to have this much money." And she'll be like, "Well, no, I'll contribute to the household income." And then he'll say, "No, that's not acceptable. You can't contribute to the household income because you got to stay home with the children," and blah, blah, blah. So it's like a damn if you do, you damn if you don't. So he often puts women in a trick bag in terms of how he poses those questions. And yeah, I think it's a little disingenuous in terms of a debate, but it's entertainment. It's for shits and giggles, right? Now this is again one that has truth in it, but it's some total BS. When he says that men build the world, I work in construction. Literally, yes, 99% of what happens in my industry is male driven. If the electricity goes out in these towns and cities, when he says that women do not respect the working man, he's totally on point with that. Like, people talk badly about plumbers and mechanics and the people that pick up the trash, but men like that serve a vital role. I have lots of college educated, terminal degree having women who are friends who refuse to date people that are essential to the world functioning, um, because they may not be educated. And there is a class issue. A person does want a partner or a spouse or mate that has a certain amount of commingled interest in things. Um, but yeah, a lot of the men who do the building and dying and sweating in this world do not get their proper just due, I think. And because I'm in the business of construction, I understand how critical these roles are, how much work it is to make sure the sewers work every day. I've worked in the sewage plant. How to how to make sure that the electric grid is working. Very critical roles that are often not really understood. And so when people have all this adulation for police officers and military people, I'm like, man, that is so misplaced. More people die in construction to make sure that you can get on the train and go to work, or that your car will have fuel. Um, a lot of men do a lot of hard work in this world, and they're really not represented well in terms of the respect that our culture provides them. We give athletes, entertainers more respect than people who actually make life worthwhile. Let the trash man stop picking up the trash. Let the wastewater worker refuse to go to work, and literally will have shit running down the streets, and which causes disease, which causes all kinds of other problems with roads and everything else. And you will then think those people are there. They're the people that do a lot of the quiet work in this world. So yeah, he's right about that. But his silly argument about men build the world, and if women weren't around, we would live to our natural age. That is crazy. No, we would not. If women were not around, you forget a lot of the food service, a lot of the healthcare work is done by women. So if the world was just full of men, our dusty, dirty butts would be dead. And half the time we would have normally been allowed, because none of us would go to the doctor's office. Right? The reason why men live the way we, the ones that are married, they say married men live longer because our wives nag us to go take care of stuff. So, his argument about if women weren't around, a man will live to his natural age is total bullcrap. And this comedian, Ryan, I forget his name, Ryan something, he jokes Kevin Samuels about that. And he's like, if there are no women around, like, what are we living for? And he's correct. Women make the world a place worth living. And so that argument is totally asinine. If there were no, I was a Thanos snap and women would disappear, men would live to our natural age. But if the men were gone, the women wouldn't know what to do to run the world. Yeah, that is true. If the men were gone, yeah, the grid would go down and blah, blah, blah. But, they would survive. And a lot of some folks would just jump off the building as soon as women disappeared. So that's asinine argument. So as we wrap this up, because it's been about an hour, the takeaways is that, believe it or not, sisters, you do have to compete for men. Just like we have to compete for you. We have to become the best version of ourselves to attract mates. Back in Mother Africa, right? My drums have stuff on them, so they're not sounding too good right now. But there was the ritual dance. The women would have their dance, and the men would have their dance, and the men would have their rite of passage. And when the man came back in, when the boy came back from the wilderness, yes, I'm thirsty. Come get some water. Sorry about that. When the boys would come back from their rite of passage, a man, and they have, were able to build themselves shelter and to hunt some animals and to do whatever they need to do to survive in the wilderness. And all of them didn't survive. Like, the rite of passage we had for boys back in the day was real. Like, if you did not pay attention, if you did not know how to hunt and farm and shelter yourself, you would die. And so when that boy came back in proud with his scars, and he's now a man, he was only be 14, 15, 16, but now he could choose a wife, because he's proven himself of value to himself and to be able to take care of a family. And the women would have to, adorn themselves and be beautiful and show their skills in dance and, be good planters and, raise the food, or whatever the culture deems necessary. So there wasn't a courtship always, between men and women where we have to prove ourselves worthy of spouses. And just because we're in 2021 going to 22 does not mean that we do not have to compete for the best gene lines to reproduce. So, and then there's this law of attraction thing where people say, "Oh, I'm going to get my man. I'm going to get what I want because I believe it." Yeah, you keep on believing that. You know, I forget what the scripture says, but it's prayer without works is dead or something like that. You know, you can think you have the law of attraction by thinking and trying to manifest something through some hocus pocus, but it takes work. The law of attraction has to do more than what you think. It has to do with how you position yourself, how you move. So if you want a certain result, you do certain things to put yourself in the position that you will attract the result that you want. You could say, "Oh God, I want to feel raindrops on me, on my skin. I'm going to think about raindrops." But fool, if you never go outside, you're not going to get the rain. So the law of attraction is not just some hocus pocus. You have to work to put yourself in position to attract what it is that you want. And of course, like I said before, we have to become the best versions of ourselves, both men and women. We are not each other's enemy, right? We have problems, we have issues, but the only way we work on those problems and issues is to work on them by running away from relationships, by doing the same things over and over and again, expecting different results, is insanity. At some point in time, we have to learn to work with each other. We have to learn to love each other beyond our faults. Nobody's perfect. We've got to understand that and begin to build community that no, water, leave it alone. We've got to learn to work with each other beyond our faults and stop starting that clock all over again. And sisters, well, let me hold on. Becoming the best version of yourself. Gender roles have value. Gender roles have value. I feel like a man when I have a role in my woman's life, when I feel like I am making her life better. We are not the same. We are different. We have different attributes that we should respect and honor those differences. Women, stop trying to take on roles that are traditional man roles. Men, stop taking on feminine characteristics. I know this is not going to sound right, but man up. There's people talk about, well, you know, a man has to learn how to cry. Yes, a man does have to learn how to cry, but a man is also expected to put his feelings second. Well, why should a man have to put his feelings and emotions second? Because when somebody comes through the door, you don't want your man in his feelings. Pure and simple. Your man's goal is to run to the door, to run to face violence without question. And so you don't want your man in his feelings. Yes, man, we have to learn to be in touch with our feminine side. Yes, we have to be more emotional. I've gone through some things in my life and I'm so in touch with my feminine side, right? But I have to also learn that when somebody come upon the door, a gunman come upon the door, I run to the door. I grab my gun and go to the door. You know, let your men lead you. If you raise a child as a single mother, please make sure that your child is around a manly male influence. Gender roles have values, and I think we should resume some of those traditional gender roles. And don't waste time. Date with a focus. Date with a focus. Don't be out here. I think Kevin Samuels calls it hot girl summer until you're 35, and then think you're going to turn around and get married at 35 when all you've been doing is having fun. No, not at all. I mean, there's nature, right? And then there's culture. Our culture tells us to put off marriage, to put off pregnancy until much later. When truthfully in life, Young women should be having children between 16 and 18 and 20. Your bodies get ready at 12, 13, 14, 15. Um, our culture is behind what nature tells us. And we have a lot of incidents of birth defects and other things, in part to delayed pregnancy. And we've got all this medical induced pregnancies and all this Frankenstein stuff because people put stuff off too late. Let's try to be a little bit more in tune with nature. Let's raise our girls, let's raise our boys to be more mature, to handle those responsibilities. People talk about teenage pregnancy like it's some new thing. No, to be honest, that's when women are supposed to get pregnant. Before 100, not even 100 years ago. Before 1950, between 1940, before we had the great migrations to the northern states, a lot of women started having babies at 16, 17. My grandmother included. She was married. Yeah. Um, high school was a new thing. Before there was grade school, I think it was to the sixth grade. And after that, you went and got a job. Then they created middle school. Then they created high school, which is why I think, and I'll leave this to all my educators, I think the fourth grade is when you finally start reading to learn. Before then, you're learning to read. But after the fourth grade, you read to learn. Yeah, I mean, 6 years of formal education, that's all you got. And we built the world for 200,000 years off of less than that. My father had a sixth grade education and earned an income way greater than I did it, with my college educated self. And, he put 4 children and a wife through college. So, let's not waste time. Date with a focus. And for women, you're not like men. You have a defined clock. We make sperm over and over and over as long as we eat good nutrition and take care of ourselves. A man will create sperm until he's dusty and crusty. But unfortunately, you have a finite amount of eggs. And what is it called? Geriatric pregnancy, 35. You have more incidences of birth defects and so forth. Now, can you have a baby at 70, at 60? I'm sure there's somebody that does. Is that what you should be shooting for? No. So let's not waste time. Let's date with a focus. And again, we are not each other's enemy, right? So there's this blue pill that they are calling simps, men who try to do whatever they can for women. And then you have this red pill, like, oh, I'm woke. I'm a MGTOW. Men going their own way. This woman bashing, anti-feminine stance, and that's some BS too. We don't want the blue pill or the red pill. We want the RBG pill, that red, black, and green pill. That pill which is going to enable us to build healthy, productive communities with Black men, Black women, and Black children that love, revere, and protect one another. That we can build a world and a society where we don't have to worry about racist cops, where we don't have to worry about all the injustices that we face because we will control our communities. So to do that, we have to have intact families so that we can take care of ourselves and our loved ones and build a more beautiful world. Wow, there are lots of comments over here. So how do I remove? There we go. Okay. So, yes. So we need to build stronger communities, and we do that by having real conversations, not by pointing the finger. Oftentimes men, it's so silly that, very rarely do you hear, sisters don't get mad, very rarely do you hear a woman taking ownership for her portion of a failed relationship. It's simple that all men are dogs and men are this and men are that. Can somebody come get my kids? Stop making all that noise. Anyway, forgive me. Okay, so that ends the official presentation. So now can we have a conversation? Can we have a dialogue? Where are the people? Baba Ankh, where are you? Um, Rashida, where are you? I don't see you here. You're supposed to join me after my presentation. Um, so where are the folks? Let's talk. Let's debate. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm wrong. Um, Anybody want to join? Any comments? I don't see anything in the comment section here. Where y'all at? Um, Let me check my inbox to see if there were any requests to come on. Nope. Nobody has requested to come on. So, um, let's see. Tanya, are you still there? Who's still watching? And where are you watching from? Are you watching on YouTube? Let's see. I have 2 viewers from YouTube and 3 viewers from Facebook. So, anybody want to come on? Somebody join me. Oh boy. So, I don't know where everybody went. I was supposed to have 2 guests join me, Sister Rashida and Brother Ankh. Let's see. Just got a beep. Okay, Rashida clicked on and said something. Where's she at? Okay, maybe Rashida will be joining me shortly. Hopefully, she will. Let's see. So, what you guys think? Is Kevin Samuels? You still think he's the devil? Like I said, he is an asshole. But I think what he says has been needed. I think oftentimes, and I know I'm guilty of this too, when it comes to telling a woman, someone that you love and care about, something that's difficult, it can be kind of hard to do. Men hate to hurt the feelings of someone they love. And you often hear women say, man, tell me the truth. I don't care if it hurts my feelings. Tell me the truth. And you tell them the truth, and it's not taken very well. So it is often hard for men to actually tell women that they care about something that they know they don't want to hear. And Kevin Samuels does not give a damn. He will say what it is that needs to be said. And so for him, I do commend him on that, because I think there's a certain amount of disconnect between really honestly what men want and what women think men want. Um, Myself personally, which is, I think I shouldn't say that. Myself, when I was younger, I valued certain things. I valued the ability for my spouse to earn money, because I believed in the Heathcliff and Claire Huxtable model of upwardly mobile, educated, professional Black men and women. And it wasn't until I literally became a father and saw that what it takes to really raise conscientious, caring human beings required a lot more than money. Money was important, but it was much more important to be present in the lives of my children. And so, to great sacrifice to myself, professionally, I've done things to make sure I was always in town. I'm in construction, national construction, and sometimes you have to travel. And if I was totally focused on my career, which is a lot of what Kevin Samuels talks about men being focused on their career, and yeah, that's important, but it's not everything. And so I do think a great deal of what we would consider traditional African values are missing from the dialogue when it comes to that subject. Link not working. Okay, Rashida, let me do it again. Invite. Messenger. I have to send the link out real quick to my guests. You're not popping up. Hmm. This is funny. This is interesting. Uh oh, that's because it's DR. I'm sorry, doctor. I forgot you got your PhD. No this. No this. Oh boy, that's funny. Okay, I just oh there you go. There you go. There you go. All right, all right, all right, all right. Yay.
Yay!
What's going on, sis?
Nothing much. Hopefully, let's see if I can hear you. Okay.
Can you hear the sound of my voice?
Yes, I can.
Yes, everyone. This is Dr. Rashida Spence, a Philly John. Are you a therapist?
I am.
Are you a relationship therapist?
I am.
Okay, a relationship and a mental health worker
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time, right?
Say that again.
I said, and you've been doing this for quite some time, right?
Oh, yes, for over 10 years, 15 years, probably at this point.
Okay, well, tell the people them who you is. Tell them who you is.
Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Rashida Spence, also known as Dr. Ra. I am a relationship strategist, I don't like the word expert, but somebody who was very passionate about Black love, Black families. So I spend a lot of time studying how to get it right. And through my research, I've also found that we actually are getting it right. So this is something I was actually really excited to talk with Kamal about today. Forget the Kevin Samuels piece of it. I don't really get too much into Kevin Samuels because he's so biased. And he definitely controls the narrative and puts women at a disadvantage. So he's just not a person who I would kind of use to leverage the message around relationships. I would definitely pick someone else. Nonetheless, we're here now discussing African American relationships, roles, as far as gender, as far as like roles within the household, collectivism, which I think that benefits African Americans, especially when we talk about like relationships and what really matters and what really makes the relationship and the household run. It's more of a collaborative effort by both the male and the female.
So, what is collectivism? Let's talk about that. You educating me.
So collectivism, as far as African culture proper, we are a collectivist culture, which means that we depend on each other, that we are interrelated, interconnected. We often do things in unison with each other. We often take care of not only ourselves, but it is our responsibility to take care of the community or the society at large. We are one of. We're not an individualistic culture, which we're familiar with through Western standards.
Okay, okay. So, uh, more of a socialist and communalist culture um, than individualistic and capitalist focused.
Right.
Right. Okay. So that's a new term to me. So, did you hear? Were you able to hear the entire presentation?
I listened to the entire thing. Yes, from start to finish. I took notes.
Where
yes.
your notes? Okay. Well, come on. bring fire. Fire burn. What? Let's go. What's your critique, yo? What's your critique, short?
I really don't have a critique again because I think Mr. Samuels creates a narrative that is very one-sided. I'm not sure where he gets his numbers from. I'm not sure the population or the people that he actually spoke to get to really get a handle on these facts the information that he's produced as facts. I would just like to know like where he's getting this information from, and then judging by some of his own kind of character defects within his own personal marital relationships and his own children, it's hard to kind of take in information from him.
Well, as professionals, we often fall short of some of the things that we teach. So we can't hold that against anybody because that is part of life. right?
That's a part of life, but I
Right.
think that's also, I think it also needs to be shared, because again, if we all are, we're not without fault. So,
Right.
we're human. So I think that's a part of his experience, but I think that's a part that should also be a part of the narrative. Like, okay, hey, this is my perspective. However, this is also a part of my entire history and who I am as a man. I think that should be brought to the forefront.
Okay. So, when you started, you said in your research, you found that we are doing it right. So, are
Yeah,
you telling me that there's a narrative out there
of course.
that presupposes that Black families are falling apart when we actually aren't?
When we actually are not. Part of my doctoral research, I spent 3 years studying African American families, African American heterosexual and homosexual relationships. And the story that is not being told is that we are actually doing well. We are actually working together, creating successful families. And then also the couples who are part of my research in particular, their mean income was well over $200,000 for the 6 couples that I followed for a period of 6 months, to really get a handle on their story, a handle on like what really makes relationships satisfying for African Americans. And again, because we don't see it, we often are under the impression that it doesn't exist, but that's just so far from the truth.
Well, Dr. Rock, clearly we can't hold a sample of 6
No. That's just no.
as
No, that's just
quantitative research.
no. So let me also be clear. So that's just a part of the doctoral research sample that I use. Now, across the 3-year span, I've studied more than 83 couples. But as far as that component of 8 months, where I just studied the small portion of 6 couples because I needed to intensely study them. But over the span of 3 years, there's been actually 83 couples.
So, what are some of the markers that indicate that Black families are doing better than we thought?
Some of the markers are that, they're not incarcerated. They're not producing children that are ending up incarcerated or ending up on drugs, or another victim of a homicide. Some of the other markers are that they don't fit some traditional stereotype that we see on television, or we constantly see blaring at us through media or some other social media platform. Another marker is that there is a male figure in the household, which we often do not hear about.
Hmm. So, you're saying that rates of incarceration, addiction are going down.
I'm not saying that those rates are going down. I'm just saying that they may not be as high as reported.
Okay. Okay. So, I take my life as an example. So, I am divorced, and
Hmm.
also not well, no, we're still a traditional nuclear family, so to speak, just in different houses. I think we did an excellent job in raising our children. So, statistically, if they looked at like my family, even though we weren't in the same household, I think my children still receive the benefits of having both parents. And I'm sure
Absolutely.
that thousands and millions of couples like myself and like you. Um, Rashid is a friend of mine, so I kind of maybe
Hmm.
didn't want to talk about that stuff.
Right.
But we're both sort of like divorced and raised children outside of a traditional type of setting, but still had very active partners and
Absolutely.
co-parents, and did a great job. Um, Congratulations. What's your daughter's name?
Maya.
Big up, my graduation coming up.
That's right. Coming up, coming up.
And one Jiru graduation passed.
Oh, awesome. Congrats.
Yes, yes. And of course, I have my millionaire daddy Warbucks and Jerry out here. Jerry the MUA. Fierce. Fierce.
Wow.
Yes. So children are doing pretty good.
Doing well.
So yeah, what else has your research shown that would be of interest to our viewers?
Hmm. And it also, what I also found was the way that relationships are constructed was also different than what we are traditionally taught. I think it's outside of what we often talk about, even with our own peers, with our own peer groups. So the way that the couples even like really found each other was about like intention and purpose. They also sought out partners who they could build a life with, and that was like an overarching theme. So like, yeah, the initial connection may have been filtered through connection through physical attraction, but that wasn't anywhere near like the substance that really carried the relationship forward. It was more about like, what are we going to really do with each other? What are we going to build together? And then the conversations and the actions became oriented towards that goal.
Wow, that's excellent. I like that. I like that. I've always been a proponent of when you build a relationship, you build a purpose.
Right.
What is the purpose of our relationship besides this selfish self fulfillment of each individual?
Right.
There's got to be a greater purpose to what we even come in together for. And even though the my marriage did not work out, my first marriage did not work out, I think the purpose of our relationship to build strong family did work. Like when I got divorced, I kept the family.
Mhm.
You know, I was still Baba. I'm still Baba. My nieces through marriage are in some ways almost as close as my nieces through blood. Like it's, families and relationships are what we make them. They're not
Absolutely.
necessarily defined by blood. You
Hmm.
know, that's interesting. So, Dr. Rod, did you study I know you said you studied um, homosexual relationships. Did you study any other non-traditional situations like polyamorous situations?
No, not I wasn't able to get a I was not able to find a polyamorous couple who had been together 10 years or more. So that was a part of the criteria. So I think in the next study for 2022, I may lower the criteria as far as like number of years together so that I can really capture those voices as well. Yeah.
I was listening to Dr. John Henrik Clark, and he, peace be upon him, often talks about how the African nation state is too restrictive for the African personality, right? Those strongly defined borders, when instead of having a nation state, we almost would function better as a people to have very loosely defined borders and states that are more so created around culture,
Hmm.
right? Versus defined borders and rivers, which are just lines on a piece of paper. I think oftentimes for the African consciousness, the typical regular relationship may be a little bit too stringent for some folks in terms of the way we relate. If you look at um, African folks, we were free out of slavery for let's see, less about 80 years. In the time span from 1865 to 1945, we had developed probably 100 different variations
Hmm.
of religious organizations and fraternities and such. So, and even at a small population, variation, right, and difference is a unique place that we rally around, and I think that has to be understood from our personality type in terms of what we need as a people for institutions that work for us in terms of being more free
Right.
um, and less restrictive. I know personally for myself, I said it again. I know for myself, you know, I like to have a task and be given the flexibility to accomplish the task regardless of the typical work structures, and I've been blessed where I've been able to work from home pretty much for the last 2007, 14 years
Hmm.
um, in my industry, which is very rare. And that suits my personality type to have the ability to flow in a different way. And even with my, I've been a proponent of polyamory for the last 26 years.
Hmm.
Um, because when I became awoke, I became awakened to the fact that a lot of things that we do as folks are based on traditions that really didn't serve our community, it didn't serve our people. I got rid of my name, um, you know, um, changed my understanding of the creator and my relationship to religion. And then the last part of that was changing my relationship with our relationships and how we relate. And instead of having the endless cycle of, oh, men cheat, blah, 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 there's something about, and it's not just the African man, but it's something innate in our culture where, it's not even a thing about lying. It's just about understanding the nature of certain people and really having a lifestyle and a culture that supports that and encourages good behavior, good understanding of that behavior, instead of demonizing it in a culture that's false anyway. Because I forget oh my God, Dr. Amos Wilson says, as soon as the European created monogamy, they created prostitution.
Wow. Wow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So what are your thoughts on that? I'm trolling you. Yes, I am.
Yeah, you are.
Where's Araka? Araka, you listening?
You know
what?
You better stop.
Sister Araka Rotherondu, my big sister in the movement, exposed me to Kemet 1991 and totally changed my life. I'm forever grateful for her. But yeah. So were there any other points that we spoke about tonight? There are no comments. People ain't saying nothing. And they still watching, but they ain't talking. Y'all liking what me and Dr. Roz talking about? What's up? Let's get some interaction. What can you see? Can you see any of the comments?
I can't see any comments on my end.
Okay. Yeah. The last comment I have was actually from you telling me the link isn't working. But well, if we don't have any other comments, I do have a message over here from somebody. Let's see what they say.
From me.
No, it's not from you. It's hello, Delita. It's from one of my viewers in Belize. Yes,
nice.
Big up Belize. Well, let's sort of change the subject since we're talking about Black love, right? Talking about Black love. Is that okay?
That's fine.
You are now okay. I have a friend who also bought property in Belize, right? And so we have this organization, right? It's a very loose. We call ourselves international motherfuckers.
Oh my gosh! Of course. Why am I
international motherfuckers? We're from Baltimore. We're from Baltimore. So we say international motherfuckers. So you are part of the international motherfucker crew.
Okay.
Because you is an international motherfucker, right? So you guys, Dr. Ra said to hell with living in America. She's going to finish her PhD abroad. And so she moved out of Dodge. And so has been living abroad for the last...
Yeah, it's been 10 months.
10 months?
11 months, yeah.
And so how has that been? And how has your experience with Black love been abroad?
Well, I think if I was more interactive with Black love, it would be a lot different. But once, I was kind of just really laser focused on completing my doctoral program. So now that is done, I think that I will now, try to open myself up to love. Because of course, I get inquiries sometimes, I'm curious about people, I'm interested. And just, creating a partnership, I know it will look very, very different. I can thank my research for that. So we'll see how people respond to that now, because my approach to dating is a lot different.
Okay. Do you think any of those, the things I mentioned in terms of like dating with a focus, I've always been a very mature person.
Mm-hmm.
I told myself before I was 20 that I wanted to get married around 27, 28. And it happened like that. I said what degree I wanted, what kind of work I wanted to do when I was a kid, 10, 12 years old. So I've been plotting my life. And thank God it's panned out. The vision that the Creator gave me when I was a little child has actually worked itself out, except I didn't see divorce coming. But do you think we should teach young people to be more responsible, to actually have these more serious relationships earlier in life and learn to work with one another earlier? I mean, we look at marriage as the fulfillment of very selfish romantic BS, I think, instead of what a marriage really is, which is, as you said, the creation of a purpose and the execution of that purpose. And hopefully that purpose is to build and sustain family and
Right.
culture. What are your thoughts on us teaching children to be more purposeful in their dating a lot younger instead of
Mhm.
delaying it, till they get older? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm definitely a proponent of, teaching people to like how to date with intention, how to date with purpose. Um, just we'll see because the culture has shifted where people are now focused on not so much, dating with that level of purpose, as far as like building a life together in one home. So I think people are now approaching relationships was like, okay, you can be in this house, I can maintain my house, and we can come together at certain points. So I think relationships over the next 5, 10 years are going to look a lot different than what you and I are accustomed to. Just because the times are changed, thanks to the millennials, thanks to the Gen Zers, their structure of relationships and relating look a lot different. But
Do
I
you
definitely think we should have the conversation about dating with purpose and what does compatibility really mean? What are your needs? What are your true desires? And giving voice to some of our own mechanisms internally that also need like to kind of be stroked or also need to be, satisfied.
Yeah, I'm about to arrange a marriage for my daughter, so I need somebody out there with some boys that got some cows. Holla at me. Yeah, you hear me talking about you? My daughter's not paying any attention. I'm trolling
And
her,
they're
and she's
not
not
going for
even
that
listening.
either.
I'm on the internet arranging a marriage for you. Whatever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whatever. Okay, Dad.
But you know what? Honestly, like as a father, like you see, the good and the bad about your child, and you probably would do a lot better job in choosing a partner for them
Yes.
than they would.
Yes.
Um, it's crazy. Like there's some things we used to do, I think we should return to, and arranged marriages, I think, is one. Um, but yeah, this world is
Yeah.
not good. I'm definitely going in the wrong direction. Even though Baba Nkosi is trying to get his son hooked up with one of my daughters. So
Oh, really?
yeah, but his son went to school for architecture. I told him not to send his son to school for architecture. Architects are some of the most broke people around.
Wow.
Yeah, because it sounds good, but the level of training and education required does not match the income when you come out of school.
Okay.
Literally, like if people can if we can get our children focused on coding, engineering, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that a lot of degrees aren't worth literally the paper
Hmm.
they're printed on.
Or project management. I don't think people talk
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
about project management.
yeah. Well, that's what I do.
I know. That's why I'm
Yeah,
mentioning that. Like, you
yeah,
don't talk about that enough.
yeah. Because I don't want them youngsters in my field. Go find your own work. Now let me stop. No, I'm totally playing. I love construction management. It's what I do. I've been afforded a very, very comfortable life. Um, yeah, I'm one of them high earning men that Kevin Samuels talks about.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, mommy, I will pick up all the woman there. We see me want her. So it is what it is. I know I'm terrible.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else haven't we covered? Did we miss anything about my little conversation about Mr. Samuels that you thought that you want to rebuke, or any of
Oh no,
my
I thought your analysis of his commentary was on point. I think it was accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But what about any of my own ideas about relationships that did because again, I come from a traditional
Right.
African centered aspect, although the name of my church is the New African Ministries. So my philosophy has always been, we take the best of the culture that we came from, right? Because we genetically, spiritually, call Africa home, but
Mm.
we do not have to go to Africa to consider ourselves to be African. As El Hajj Malik Shabazz, peace be upon him, would always say, if a cat has kittens inside of the oven, we do not call them muffins. And so just because we are born here and have our own cultural um, our own cultural ways, folkways, and mores, we are equally as African as any other African, because the African that lives in Nigeria is tremendously different from the African that lives in Somalia. And the African that's in Somalia is totally different than the African that is in Mozambique and Zimbabwe or Botswana. You know, so the difference of variation in African culture is great. Like there's more genetic difference between an East African and a West African than it is from a West African to a European. That genetically, West Africans have more genetic relations or genetic code related than the African and East African and the West African, because we've been around for 200,000 years. So those Africans that were in West Africa that eventually the Grimaldi that went to Europe and populated Europe 20, 30,000 years ago are way different than their genetic predecessors that left East Africa 200,000 years ago. So you've got 170,000 years of genetic variation from the East African to the West African, and only 30,000 years from the West African to the European. Boy, I just blew somebody's head away. Right? That's that anthropological stuff that I get down with, right? Like literally, genetically speaking, and the African and West Africa is closer to European genetically than West African and East African. But I digress. So,
yeah, you know what? Come on, I did have a question about one of the things you mentioned, because I've heard this a lot as well. Like when people are saying, "Okay, well, men, our role and responsibility to women and to our family is to provide, protect," and there was a third thing that you mentioned:
profess,
profess,
provide, and protect.
Right. Yes. And so my question is around the like how you describe your protection. And I'm just curious about like, why is it always framed that somebody is coming, there's an intruder, or somebody is approaching us with some level of violence, so I have to protect the woman or protect the household structure. I'm also wondering like, what other practical ways does that play out in a real life day-to-day situation? Because we're not always defending ourselves against some armed robber. Somebody's not always invading our house. So what does that look like on a real practical day-to-day situation?
If you have a man that is properly trained in the art of manhood, he will make sure that your roof does not leak, that your lights are on, that your light bulbs are in place.
Okay.
You know, I mean, no, literally, it's simple stuff. It's the everyday things. And as a Oh, see you locking the door.
I was opening the door. I'm opening the door. Maya was coming in. I'm opening the door.
She don't need no man, but she locking that door though, son.
Open the door. What? My child was coming in.
Oh, I hear it.
Lord. I'm opening the door.
No, okay. Well, there's a couple different parts to that. One is the world is always only a second from anarchy and chaos. And I don't think we live in a world, this is what Kevin Samuels talking about too. He says we've civilized, men have civilized the world to such a degree that women now don't think they need men. When at any moment, this world is always a second away from anarchy. And if you are in a world where literally might makes right, and that is the mentality of a ruling class, might makes right. Whereas now we have these conventions and social compacts that we have certain levels of behavior, but that is always a second away from anarchy. Let's go back to Afghanistan, or where you had a legitimate legal government, and a month later you had the Taliban. So women were going to school. Now they don't have to. They were
right.
They could live a certain way, but now they can't. They could say certain things. Now they can't. I'm not saying that men are just able to rape them wantonly and do whatever, but this world is always a second away from anarchy. And I think that's something that here we kind of, oh yeah, it's always going to be this way, but no, no. Which is why he also talks about how we need to revere and love our men, because if that anarchy at any second kicks off again, if there is another Rosewood, if there is another Tulsa, you will need your men to protect you. Don't ever, ever, never, never, ever, ever, never, ever think that you do not need us in this land. Please. Yeah, so that's one part of it. Now, true, we don't have anarchy coming daily. However, there's still a certain role that a man properly trained loves to take care of. I love taking care of my home. I love making sure my children and my family is safe, right? That is something I enjoy doing. It is my responsibility to make sure that we have a comfortable, warm place to be that's full of food and life and love and
And
security.
chickens.
And well, that's part of the food. Yeah, I mean, when shit hit the fan, you gonna be trying to come down from Philly. Like the Philly, I live right off of Route 1. She gonna be trying to come down Route 1 right down the street and try to get some of my chickens, y'all. She ain't slick. Right. But yeah, that's actually part of why I'm an international motherfucker, because I wanna have a place where I can literally live off grid, provide for myself, provide for my family. That is something that a real man revels in, to be able to provide and protect. Right. My father showed his love by getting up and going to work at 4 o'clock in the morning as a longshoreman, putting his life and limb in jeopardy to provide a good life for his family. So yeah, it's the basic stuff. It's the trash. I'll take the trash out most of the time, but sometimes I'll be tired, like, can y'all just take the trash to the street, please? But we got a trash can, and I know the trash man is coming. One thing I did for my children, as soon as they got of age, I got them credit cards and bank accounts, right? Co-sign for cars, give them credit cards, got them AAA. Like, first thing, like, hey, you need a AAA card. Here's a AAA card for everybody. Because if they're ever unable to be stuck, I don't want to have to worry about nothing. No, you just call AAA, right? Or I'll come get you, or whatever you got to do. I want to make sure that they're secured. So those are the kind of things that a properly trained man understands. And if it works like it's supposed to, and it does most of the time, you guys don't even know we doing shit.
Right.
Because so he got it. He got it. You know what I mean? Like, I know your experience with your old house, right?
You listen.
I ain't gonna put your business in the street.
Nerves.
But if you was my woman, none of that's
that was trauma. Make me never want to be a homeowner ever again.
I know. And so, like, I don't, like, I'm 50. I might not get up on the roof, but I'm gonna get somebody to get up on the roof to get it done. Right? I might not climb up on that 50-foot ladder anymore, but I'm gonna get it taken care of. Like, you remember my ex, Kim, when she was looking for a house, it was I found her house for her, right? She's a real estate agent. I mean, she wasn't back then, but yeah, I'm gonna hook it up. One of my titles is Mr. Get Ish Done. And I love that. If Kamal says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it. And it's not susceptible to the whims or emotions. Like, I think a good man, when he makes a promise, he's going to keep that promise. And especially when it comes to taking care of his family. So yeah, but I'm a caveman. And I'm fine with that. I'm gonna be a caveman. I come from a long line of cavemen. And I'm going to promote more cavemen in this world. And so, does that answer your question? Did that make
that does sense? Answer my question.
Yeah, especially when I didn't want to get in your. But as soon as you said it, I thought about your house, and I was like,
"Oh,
really, Rashida? You want to ask me that question?"
But that experience leads me now to say I will never be a homeowner again unless I'm with a partner, because I cannot go through that ever. That was traumatic.
Plus, I'm a chef par excellence, so I ain't even gonna say that.
Yeah, you know that I don't do any cooking.
I know. My father was my mother would cook, but my father was a way better cook than my mother. And that's just part of his creativity. You know what I mean? So I think the role of a man, and you might not need us, but we
Mm-hmm.
need to feel like you need us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that when you really do need us, we're still here. Other than that, we'll be on the corner drunk somewhere, and you don't want that.
No.
No.
This was a great conversation. I'm glad that you brought this back and that it's online, and definitely thinks it helps us to change the narrative and kind of hear perspectives that we don't often get a chance to hear.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to do these every other week. I wanted to do this Kevin Samuels one because first I wanted to get it out there, right? You know, because people talk about it, and I just thought, hey, look, we need Kevin Samuels for Dummies because one, y'all getting all upset about it when he's talking about
A fraction of the population.
when he's talking to these women, he's talking about a very small subset of men and what they want. So yeah, he's telling the truth. You know what I mean? Blair Underwood is not checking for Gabrielle Sidibe. Not to diss her, but she is who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Just like what's that girl's name? Lizzo.
Oh, Lizzo. Mm-hmm.
Was trying to push up on Captain America. Chris, what's his name?
I don't know his name.
Yeah, the actor. The real Lizzo was in the DMs of the actor that plays Captain America, Chris.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was really trying to push up on Chris, and everybody joked that because it's like, yo, he's not checking for you, sis. Like,
wow.
The man that makes $20 million a movie is going to be looking for his Barbie doll wife. He's not looking for you. You could be as body positive as you want, but that's just ridiculous. Like,
wow.
Yeah, and so she was. I think Lizzo sometimes she be having breakdowns.
But wait, did he put that out to the world that she was in his DM?
She jumped in his thing for everybody to see.
Oh.
I don't do Instagram or any of that kind of stuff, but she was flirting with him for everybody to see. So everybody saw that she was. You trying to pull Chris? What is his name? It's not Chris Pine. Chris Pine is, Chris Evans. Yes,
Chris Evans. Wow.
Right. So she was in his social media trying to holler. People was like, yo, he ain't checking for you. And she's like, y'all just hate no fat girls. No.
Interesting.
Look, I'm a fat boy and I think I can book anybody I try. But I know I can't. Right? It is what it is. You know what I mean? I have to wait till I have a conversation. That's my biggest thing is my intellect and my ability to listen to women.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my charming smiling voice. Did you hear the beginning of it? Did you hear the beginning of the show?
Yeah, I listened to the whole
thing.
Hear
the music and everything, and I was trying to do the quiet storm.
Yes. I was like, okay, stick to the script.
So we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna do this. I'm gonna try to get Baba Ariomi. He tried to log in, but I see it didn't go through. We're gonna get Baba Ariomi on at some point and talk. I think I'm gonna skip all this relationship stuff now. I think I've done enough of this, and I'm going to get back into Kemet. We have the solstice coming up, which is a big time in the the cycle of the spiritual African, and we're going to do some stuff on the solstice and Kemet and Christianity and start bringing it back home. So hopefully we will.
Oh, that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, we will have more conversations like that, and hopefully you will join me again. And of course, I'm always willing to get on your joint when you do your stuff. So
yes,
thank you, Dr. Rashida. This was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. Have a good night. Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right, everybody. This is the African World Study Group coming to you live and direct from Baltimore, Maryland. We want to give thanks and praise to Sister Dr. Rashida Spence. Yo. Where can the people then find you if you're looking to be found?
So you can contact me at www.energyconnectionstherapy.com. And energy is spelled INNERGY, connectionstherapy.com.
All right. And you provide what kinds of services?
Relationship support for couples as well as individuals who are trying to attract that perfect mate. I'll do a lot of work with single women around like self-awareness and ways to kind of reaffirm yourself and your personal identity. So if you're looking to kind of just strengthen your own growth, connect with me.
All right. So again, this has been a podcast from the African World Study Group on Facebook. That's AFRIKAN World Study Group, and on YouTube, AFRIKAN African World Study Group on YouTube. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashida. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in today. Thank you for Sister Navasha and Fertile Ground for bringing us in with Black is. So again, until next time, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.